Join us on this week's Pembroke Dock Towncast, where we'll be talking all about Albion Square, all of our memories of Albion Square. We'll be talking about cyclists, the pros, the cons, and we'll be having another chat about the DockBox Derby. All that and a whole load more on this week's Pembroke Dock Towncast.
Be strong.
Welcome back to this week's Pembroke Dock Towncast. Thank you for your comments on last week's show. I hope you enjoyed sharing your memories of Woolies in Pembroke Dock. I didn't get anyone with their first record though. Nobody told me what their first record in Pembroke Dock Woolies was. But yeah, that is still available if you want to pop up your. I remember buying this in Woolies in Pembroke Dock. That will be grand. So more of the same to come this week. So let's crack on straight away with it and have a look at some news and events. Okay, so a couple of bits, a couple of new bit. But there's a load of stuff coming up for half-term holidays, but we've done that one, so give you plenty of time to plan it. So I'm going to try and share the presentation. I think I did it as a presentation. I'll try and share it on our group this week. There's loads of stuff coming up for half term. No excuses to be in the house over half term. Loads of stuff to do with the kids. Penn Hall, Pater Hall, Manor House, Dinosaur Park, Heatherton, and then the St Gothans Centre. Loads of stuff going on in St Gothans Centre. So yeah, no excuses not to be out and about this coming half-term week. So a couple of bits and bobs that I've just picked out from here, there, and everywhere. So there's a new business opened in Pembroke. I want to do more of this. So if businesses are starting to open, it doesn't matter if it's a town centre business, could be, as long as you're based in Pembroke or Pembroke Dock, give me a tag, let me know, and I'll certainly mention you at the very least. So Water and Cook in Pembroke. So this is on Castle Terrace, which is in between the castle and the Darklins, going down onto Mill Pond, in that little stretch of 3 or 4 there, next to where they're doing the Henry VII development. So you'll find these guys there, kitchen and design company. Now, I'm assuming that bathrooms will come at some point. They do tend to come together, but at the moment it's just kitchens. And just look at it and you go, yeah, tidy. So it's local, it's on your doorstep. Make use of it. You don't need to go to Haverfordwest or Carmarthen or anything like that for a kitchen design company anymore. These guys are there, lovely showroom, and they'd be happy to see you in there if you are thinking of changing your kitchen at any point soon. Okay, the bits and bobs of Pembroke Dock then. So this I found quite interesting. New industrial units going up by the PCMPA building, which I think is a great thing. We need more of these. They do bring a lot of businesses into the town, and while they're in the town, they're using other businesses in the town, and then they're spending money in the town. This is more of what we need. I know there's a demand for small industrial units for, car repairs, for car sprayers, for, even if it's just offices, all of those kind of things. There's loads of places that could do with this. So this is great to see going up by the PCMPA building, where there are already units up there. So I just wanted to share this, not because I'm a particular fan or a hater of any particular. I am a hater of certain political parties, but not a fan of any particular party. So I just wanted to share this about the public transport survey. Okay. And the reason I'm sharing this, it is on Henry Tufnell's page. It was posted in the Pembroke Dock and Pembroke Citizens Forum. Okay, so that's where it was, 8th of October. So you can go back and find it and fill it in from there. But the reason I want to share it is this, okay, is we're the end of the line, and I've discussed this previously, end of the line on public transport. And we never get our fair share because it kind of filters down and down and down and down and down. So we don't get our fair share. So we don't shout about it enough. And we don't use public transport because it doesn't really work for us. Okay. So, and I've got other bits to talk about public transport and stuff later. We need a solution that is good for us in Southwest Wales. Yeah. So what works in London certainly doesn't work for us. What works in Manchester, Liverpool, Bristol, Newcastle won't work for us down here. Okay. What works in Cardiff, Swansea might not work for us down here. So we have to tell people what it is we want. Okay. And what we can't do is go back in the 80s, we used to do this. In the 60s, we used to do this because the amount of cars on the road at the minute doubles every 15 years. I think I saw 10 to 15 years, something like that. So this is about public transport. We have rubbish public transport down here. Okay. And trust me, I've lived in big cities. I've traveled to big cities. I've got family living in big cities, all over the country. And you go there, and most people don't have a car because they live in the big city and they just go, well, if I need this, I'll hop on a tram. If I need that, I'll go on the underground. If I need that, I'll get a taxi. I can walk to most of the places I need to go to. I'll hire a bike. I'll hire a scooter. And it's a lot cheaper for them than running a car. Okay, so part of why I'm sharing this is if you want to be a part of the solution, you have to be a part of the conversation. If you want your views heard, you have to tell people what they are. Okay. So on that link, you'll see there, this is where you can fill out a quick survey and fill it all in. Okay. So I would really encourage you to do that and send a message that we need a solution for Pembroke Dock that is based on the needs of Pembroke and Pembroke Dock. Okay. Um, I'm going to hark back a little bit to when we had buses for what is now Valero and the power station, and the amount of, you can take 50 cars, 50 people, put them on one bus and move them, and you could get rid of, you take how long 50 cars were, and you take how long one bus is, and that makes a lot more sense going back and forth. So, yeah, I would encourage everybody to get involved in this one here. So, couple of events that are going on. So I know lots of people listening to this are either in a business or construction or have friends in that kind of area. The framework for contracting out with Pembrokeshire County Council, this is all county councils throughout Wales now. That is changing. I don't know very much about this. I'm going to be honest with you because that's not my kind of thing. But I know lots of people rely on this, and it's changing. So again, you have to get yourself educated on what's happening, how it's changing, why it's changing. And if you think that this is something that you should be a part of, then yeah, go, because this. My understanding is this is to make it easier for smaller businesses to get work with the council. Okay. And it'll make it easier for the council to get small works done quicker. So it works for everybody, it works for absolutely everybody. So if you know someone, tell them. If you've got any questions, there's an email down the bottom here, procurement@pembrokeshire.gov.uk. That will go through to Roseanne Field. So by all means, ask the question, but there is a workshop at the Innovation Centre, 2:30 till 4:30 on the 22nd, which is Wednesday afternoon. Make the time to go. Trust me, you will kick yourself if you don't go to this one. Okay. But if you absolutely definitely can't, okay, there is another one. So again, this is to do with the minor works framework for building maintenance. If you're a builder, a carpenter, a plumber, a chippy, well, what else would you have? I don't know, a decorator. Yeah, you need to be part of this. Um, that's the online workshop. Okay, so the workshop will be at Archives Building. I thought this was the online workshop. There's an online workshop as well. Okay, but there's also this is the one to go to, but there's an online workshop through Business Wales as well. So I said I was going to share this last week, and I cannot stress to businesses how important this is becoming now. I've spoken to a business owner this week who, based in Haverfordwest, very nearly lost everything through a very, very low scale cyber attack that just changed his account details into somebody else's. Thankfully, the bank picked it up and did some checks. He didn't lose too much money, he didn't lose control, but could have been massive for him. His whole business could have just gone completely. So I urge you to get involved with this and yeah, upskill yourself if you're a local business owner. Doesn't matter if you're a mobile business owner, if you're a builder, if you're a shop in the town centre, if you're an online trader, it doesn't matter. Get your cybersecurity sorted because there are some very horrible people that will send out a million emails or a million scams. Um, it just takes one wrong click on a website. I had one myself this week. About a Christmas present, looked like Christmas present, and you click on it, and it goes, "You've reached a dodgy site. Um, your system will be infected with a. Please take action ASAP." And then there's a link to go through to your Google account, and you go, "Hang on a second. I don't think that that is." And that link is the actual bug. So all of those kind of things, there's loads of them out there. Get yourself safe on those. Okay, that's it for the news this week. I say loads of stuff we're going on over half term. Shared already. I'll share it again. Don't worry on that one. So, just wanted to I remember. So I remember last week was really fun. Um, this week we're going to talk. I said we talk about Albion Square School. We're going to talk about that Albion Square kind of area. Then next week we'll talk about Park Infants as well. But if you remember Albion Square School, if you were a pupil, if you were a teacher, you might have been a teacher of Albion Square School, and you got some memories to share or some photos. Loads of us have got those like end of term photos that you used to have when you were like 7. And I always had really scruffy hair. It was my hair was just like massive. Now I'm desperate for that because it's disappearing at a rate of knots. But yeah, back in those days, used to, and I could never, like, I could comb it and brush it, and it would never stay safe. So those, all of those old school photos, if you got those hanging around, or your sports day photos, your Christmas concert photos of Albion Square, I'd be really interested to see them. Mainly because I never went to Albion Square. I was a Park Infants boy. Um, and it was always that thing that when we got to um, junior school, what's now the doctors, which that's next week's one. We'll do Park Infants next week, then we'll do the junior school after that. But yeah, when you got that first day of like, oh well, we're all of the we're the Park Infants kids, and over here were the Albion kids, and there was and the first thing was always like having a game of football against each other and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, it's your first real experience of like integrating. Here's some people that you're gonna need to get along with because you were in these two groups over here, and now those two groups do this, and then you go to the comprehensive school and you go, actually, same thing again. Now there's like 3 or 4 of you now. So yeah, Albion Square was always to me. Now, this is going to sound a bit weird, but to me, Albion Square was where the posh kids went. Um, okay, and I was the other side of town. I was never on the right side of the tracks, but I've got loads of friends that did go to Albion Square, and we then moved up to that kind of end of town when we had cash, when the cash was here. So, yeah, it's I quite liked. I've been in the school a couple of times, and I quite kind of like. It's a much older school, so I thought I'd have a look at some of the older stuff around there, and I've got a few bits to share with you now. So let's just have a look at these. So the first bit that I came across was it's a really cool site called the Pembroke.com, um, which is about schools in Pembroke, mainly dedicated to Pembroke Grammar School on that. Okay, so and if any of you know Phil Carradine, he's if you ever see anything from Phil Carradine, you know that it's a good read on that, and it's been well researched. So Albion Square School, okay, kind of started way back at the end of the 1800s, start of the 1900s, yeah. So the up until then, education was kind of a little bit hit and miss. And the bit I like about this, the kind of when you think of this now and you think, oh, this is ridiculous, but this kind of tells you of how we've evolved as a society. People in Pembroke Dock didn't like the idea of setting up a school because they didn't want the lower classes being educated. That still exists now. They do not want you to be educated because you will go and take their money that they squirrel away to their little private funds abroad. And the more of us that are more intelligent scares the life out of those at the higher classes. That still exists. This was written in 1902, that started. So we're 125 years beyond that, and that still hasn't changed. So um, there are a number of different schools, and the school board, kind of the role of the school board, and then the Welsh Joint Education Committee, as it is now, was to make sure everybody got educated, to make sure everyone had access to a school, and that schools were for everyone. Um, so the first school there are two schools in Pembroke Dock. Okay, over in that, obviously Pembroke Dock grew from the port, the dockyard, and grew outwards from that way, and continues to grow outwards that way. So the schools were based in Albion Square and the top of Pembroke Street, which is now Victoria, on Victoria Road. You know, there's a set of flats, there's a block of flats there. That used to be a school. Okay. So, oh no, yeah, actually, I think there's a photo of it further down here somewhere. There. So the first home of the intermediate county school and the former hotel. There we go. So it used to be a hotel. So this is now the flat. So this, if you look along here, like all of this is now a terrace and what have you. So this building here, and it comes around the corner and goes down there. Used to be a hotel and is now flats. But that was then turned into the school, the first home of the county school. So the county school was where the posh kids went, and then Albion Square, which would be, let me think, so Albion Square would be down here and around this way there. Um, that would be where the other kids went. That's where the work. This one here would be for the kids of the owners of the dockyard and the managers in the dockyard, and the kids for the workers in the dockyard would go down there and round the corner on that. So yeah, have a read of this page because it is really interesting on this. There's things about who the headmasters were and all of this kind of stuff. So there you go. Look, there's bits up there. But really interesting about how Pembroke Dock was a very classist kind of town. There were there were the majors, the owners, the business owners, and they kept to themselves. And then there was the scum. and I would have definitely been part of the scam. Um, and that's where they were. So that obviously evolved over many years through there. So then I thought, okay, well that kind of gives us a bit of the history um of the school, yeah, of Albion Square School. But what about Albion Square itself? You know, why is Albion Square called Albion Square? Okay, so that's when I got to this one. So there used to be a building. So you know where the car park is now? Yeah, at the end of Book Street, and then it just goes, house, car park. So there used to be a big building there called Albion House. Um, it was barrack, shops, blah, 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 blah. Demolished in 1956 after the war because of war damage. And then you go, oh, crikey, okay. And then, the memorial, there is a memorial, the big pointy thing. That was the original town memorial. Um, so that's located there as well. You go, oh, okay. So there used to be a massive building there called Albion House. Why was it called Albion House? I don't know. Um, but yeah, so lots of things there that are cause kind of explain why that area is called Albion House, Albion Square on there. So what was it? Well, it was if you think of where Albion Square, it's an obvious location for like an open air market, that kind of thing. Um, yeah, important civic events. If you think that the town hadn't grown that much out into where it is now, lots of things would have been there. So yeah, it talks about the school. How dare the school offer training for these people should know their place. I just love the fact that Pembroke Dock used to be so up itself that we had a class war in Pembroke Dock. Um, yeah. So Civic Centre 1901 was where Mayor Angus MacColl proclaimed King Edward the Seventh. Towns Centenary 1914. There would have been a party there, gathering point, which, you know, you take now, you look at it, and we've got lots of pavements and roads, and back then it would have just been a really big open area. And I don't know if you remember, but there used to be, oh, there we go, the Albion Square Chapel. It wasn't a chapel, it was bloody massive. It was huge. It was like a cathedral. Um, you might have gone to the boxing club there, which yeah, I did. Steve Jones, I think Stevie Jones. Took me boxing there, which was and it was a really good place. Massive old building. Boxing club used to usually a tiny section of it, but it was huge. It was huge, and it became there obviously difficult to maintain. But yeah, over the years, it has been. It was a shame to lose it. It was a shame they couldn't keep the front bit of it on that. But yeah, so that if you remember those kind of things, then and you've got any old photos of that old chapel, please do post them as well. So then there's other bits about how it was damaged, and lots of Pembroke Dock got hammered through World War II because of its significance. Um, but yeah, so the building was demolished in 1956. There you go. So 1956. So there may well be people that remember that being there. Currently, the school is a further education centre, yeah, and very good it is too on there. So, yeah, interesting to just look back over what it has been and what it could have been. But for me, Albion Square School was it's where the posh kids went. So if you were one of those posh kids, I would love to know what it was like to go to school there. who were your teachers? Who were your favourite teachers? Why were they your favourite teachers? Who was your worst? No, let's not do worst teachers. Let's not do worst teachers because do you know what? Without teachers, we'd all be thick as pigs. So some of us still are, even with teachers, but we'd all be like that if we didn't have teachers. So yeah, share with me your memories of Albion Square School and that kind of general area. I remember there used to be a little veg place um, just behind the car park. And it was Kevin. I think it was called Kevin. And he used to be busy as hell on a Sunday morning. On a Sunday morning, literally, the world and his wife would just park in that car park and just get fresh veg from Kevin. And you'd go home and cook it. And then like you didn't used to do like a weekly shop. I think you must have probably did. But I remember going over and getting bag of spuds, bag of carrots, some broccoli, parsnips. My mum used to cook parsnips. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I remember going over to Kevin, getting thing, and it was like it was almost like he converted his garage into this shop. And it didn't matter what time of day you used to go there, it always looked like he'd had like a really rough day. It don't you could go there 10 o'clock in the morning, it looked like he'd been working 6 hours digging in the fields. But I think he must have had a small holding somewhere, and that was all genuinely all his own gear that he was flogging out of there. So yeah, I remember that. I remember that, say the boxing club. I remember when what is now Robinson's was David and Helen's, I think it was called, and the idea of having a corner shop, and then I think they did videos in there as well at some point. I think that used to be the thing, and then you used to have the pizza parlors. Do you remember the pizza parlor with what was his name? The old geezer, really, really old, proper Italian old geezer. Um, so he used to be on that little stretch of Bush Street in between kind of like the Charlton and Park Street and Albion Square. You used to have all sorts of shops. They used to have a pizza place. There used to be a shoe shop there at one point. There used to be a butcher's there. I remember walking past that butcher's and you had like ducks hanging in the window, genuine. And I used to, I came from the countryside, so I was fully on board with, you had ducks for tea, you had pheasants and all of this kind of stuff. But in the middle of the town centre, seeing two ducks hanging was a bit bizarre. Um, so yeah, all of that kind of area used to be really, really important. Um, and was, that used to be the hub of the town. So share your memories with me of the chemist on the corner. Do you remember the chemist on the corner? And he was like, that was a really, really old shop. That's Commercial Row, that is. He was on that corner with Commercial Row. And he was there for years and years and years, and just always felt like it was something from Victorian times. When you went in there, there were like all the old schooly stuff up there. I just always felt like an old school chemist and stuff. God, yeah. So, yeah, share with me your memories of Albion Square because it's it. I didn't go to that school. I would love to know more about that school. Next week, we will do Park Infants, which, for those of you that don't know, is now the skate park. And we had this massive playground, which was great. So, yes, that's next week. Thank you, Paul. I remember. You know how you're talking and you're saying stuff, and like I do a little bit of planning. I try and keep it quite loose. So I go, all right, yeah, mention this bit, mention this bit. And then you're halfway through a sentence and something goes bang. Oh, remember when we did this? Remember when we did that? And then it just comes out my mouth. So sometimes it can seem a little bit random on there, but yes, that's that was I remember for this week. So before we do the chatty bit, please do like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Makes a massive difference to us. You'll get notified when we are putting an episode live. So we're not going to do Spotify anymore. Just we're not at the stage where it's not worthwhile for us. YouTube certainly is. So if you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, I would be really grateful. And tell your friends about us as well. Like and share. That'll be yay, makes everyone happy. Cool. Okay, let's do chatty bit for this week. So I was kind of struggling on chatty bit because there's lots of like little bits bobbling along. And then I saw the thing about the survey that I said to you earlier, the public transport survey. And then I saw a post on the Citizens Forum about shared cyclists. And then I happened to also be talking to somebody that said they used to cycle to work, they don't anymore, because it was causing issues with people who were walking. So this whole thing between walking and cycling and public transport, and I thought, right, okay, let's crack that then. So cycles and cycle path. I used to be a cyclist. Used to cycle to work every day from Pembroke. Used to work in the docks. Used to cycle, and I was a lot thinner and a lot fitter back then. I'll be honest with you. Um, so I used to use a lot of those shared paths, and a lot of the paths between Pembroke and Pembroke Dock are shared paths. Um, and even back then, and I'm talking 10, 15 years ago, 15 years ago, easy, you know, that there'd always be an issue. So I think there's a joint responsibility on shared paths. Okay, one, everybody needs to know that it's a shared path. So there are signs up. Are they great signs? No. Why are they not great signs? Because when you put bigger signs up, they get vandalized. So that's the first bit about shared responsibility is we need to have better signs. And when those signs are up, they need to be left alone because they're information signs. So when there are some shared paths, okay, which are nice and wide. So let's take an example, okay, of you come across the top road and you're going to go. So you've come from Penna, you've gone across the top road, and you're going to go all the way to the end of the top road. And then when you get to the school, you're going to go down the hill towards Bush Camp. Okay. In fact, you're going to go down the hill and then over to Tesco's because that gives us a good kind of selection of what's there. So that first bit, there is nothing there. You're a cyclist, you're on the road. Okay. That first bit is not shared paths. Yeah. So you remember a couple of weeks ago, there was a proposal to increase the amount of shared paths around the town. Yeah. So that first bit, you were on the road. Now, I've cycled that road a few years ago when I was doing my fitness. I got bad knees, so I couldn't do running, so I had to do cycling. I used to cycle that road a lot. It was dangerous as hell because drivers do not care about cyclists. Yeah. And I still see it now. I see cyclists getting buzzed. If they do have to go on the road, they get buzzed. Um, we'll talk about the etiquette on the road in a minute. So you come from there, you've then got the cycle path, a shared cycle path, but it's nice and wide. It's 6 foot wide, 8 foot wide, maybe in some places. Yeah. You then got this different thing. So you as a cyclist, you go from I have to share this space with cars, and cars don't care about me. And then you're almost the other side of it when you're on the shared path because you're the one going faster. You're the one that's the danger to the slower people. So yeah, it's a weird one because you go from I feel vulnerable to I feel in charge, but then you have to have this idea of what's it like to be someone walking with you there. So when I was on my bike, I used to have a horn. I used to have my bell. The bell was rubbish because it kind of goes ting, 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 ting. But I used to have a proper full on one of those big horn, so you could not miss me on there. And it was a big thing, it was like that long it was. Um, I just find that so much more effective because it was loud and it let people knew that I was coming. So I think there's a shared responsibility there. Cyclists need to be aware that there are pedestrians around, and cyclists need to let pedestrians know that they're coming. Pedestrians need to share that space. So if there's four of you and you're all walking, um, sharing all the way across the pavement, and then you hear a bike coming, two of you have to walk behind and make the space. It's a shared space. It's not your space. They've got the right to be there. So you have to share that space, and you have to have a bit of humility and go, okay, I'll just move out the way, let them go through, or stand to the side and go through. Um, Dog walk is the same again, and I do this. I've got the extending leads, so my dogs can go 5, 10 meters away from me. Okay, 5 or 7 meters away from me. Um, but I know if there's a cyclist coming towards me or coming from behind me, I keep my dogs close. And then when the cyclist has gone past, I will let them out again because it's good practice. It's good practice for you. It's good practice for the dog. It's good practice for the cyclist, you know. So you then get to the end uh, of that little shared cycle path area, and you head down the hill into Pembroke Dock, and you go into a very, very narrow shared cycle path, shared cycle pedestrian path. And there really isn't enough room on that path for a bike and a person. There is, if you're going slow. Now, you're coming down that hill on your bike. If you're not careful, you're going to do someone some damage. Same for people coming up. If a cyclist is coming up, they're struggling a fair bit because it is quite a steep hill, particularly if you're not an avid cyclist. Well, if you're not one of the fitness freaks, yeah, and we'll talk about fitness freaks in a minute, then that can be quite dangerous. So again, it's about having that understanding to kind of, yes, you probably could get 25, 30 mile an hour out down there on your bike, but that's quite dangerous to other people. So you use your brake and you just conserve a bit of energy and slow down. If you're a pedestrian there, then yeah, you need to be aware that they probably need a bit of space and probably move to the side. And I think this is where that courtesy bit comes in. People are quite happy to do that if you just say thank you. If you're going past on a bike and you go thank you, um, then that makes a difference. If you're a pedestrian and you just say to the side, if you can see that that cyclist has slowed down, and you go thank you as they go past. The world is a much better place when we're just all a little bit more grateful for people being kind. So, there's lots of shared bits. You then get to the bottom again, and you get to the bottom of so you go through the tunnel, the train tunnel, the tunnel under the train, which is an absolute godsend because when I used to cycle down there, used to get to the big one with this. It's hard enough going through there in a car, but if you try and go through there on your bike, oh my word. So anyway, so you go through the tunnel and you get to the bottom, and then it becomes a little unclear. It becomes should you be on the road? Should you be on the pavement? Now, be honest, I used to stick to the pavement because say it's cars just don't have a care for cyclists in that area. So yeah, and then you can go up into the Tesco car park. You'd go up into the B&M car park and through, and those kind of things. So it's a little bit safer. But with a little bit more understanding, a little bit more clarity, yeah, it could be so much easier for all of us. And this is what I'm saying about personally, I think we're missing a trick on this. I genuinely do. It's because of the way Pembroke Dock is laid out. Yeah, we are built to make cycling easy. Genuinely, we're on that grid system. There's always a little route round. So if we had a better public transport system, yeah, so either buses or trams or just something that's a bit more regular, a bit more and goes to the right places more often, yeah, you could you could have your electric bike, like they do in the big cities. You would have charging stations next to a bus stop. Boom, pop it there. You could have whether it's yours or whether it's a council one that gets rented or whatever. Come home, get off the bus, get on the bike, go. It would be so much easier, and moving around the town would be so much better. Now there are going to be people that that I know that probably listen to this going, "Oh, I've got my car now." All well and good, but it's just a lump of tin. And like it or not, they're becoming less and less of a thing. At some point, we will have integrated social transport down here, and and people will start looking at it and going like, "Oh, so I can get to work, get home. I won't have to find a parking space. I don't have to pay the insurance. I don't have to worry about um, paying for the tax, the car recovery. I don't have to worry about paying for the car. I can just use what I want when I want, and then keep that money in my account. So I don't have to pay 20 grand out for a car. I can keep that in my account." And then just it'll earn the interest, and basically it stays there and earns the interest until I don't need to anymore. That makes a lot of sense. Um, things like online shopping will become the norm. Yeah, it's. I'll be honest. I keep telling myself that that's for me. I would much prefer to do that now, purely because the journey from my house to the supermarket and back irritates me. I was shopping yesterday and three cars in the car park, three cars all taking up double spaces. And you're like, why? Because you've got an expensive car, or you think the rest of us don't have cars that we had to pay a lot of money for. So it's bits like that, and you just think it's not a pleasant kind of thing anymore. So for me, that's the future. We also miss a lot in terms of if we had a connected cycle path system. I'm all in favour of having dedicated cycle paths when they put the cycle path in going out of town out to Kiru. And I remember seeing it on social media at the time. People go, "This one, why we not got any cyclists on here? Nobody uses that. This is ridiculous." Every single day, every day, me and my family drive up and down that road, and every day there are cyclists, there are pedestrians, there are people using that track, and it's getting more and more and more. So yeah, that's the bit that you go, okay, if you build it, it will get used. So I would like to see more of an integrated system. But if we're smart in Pembroke Dock, we can become the hub. We can become the hub where we go, right, okay, Pembrokeshire, tour in Pembrokeshire on your cycles starts in Pembroke Dock, and you can go out round the headland into Pembroke and then back out round the headland. You could have cycle routes directly to Valero, go out on the outside. There's all sorts of stuff you can do. We're perfectly based in Pembroke Dock to maximise that. There's in Cornwall, so Cornwall's a little bit flatter, but the principle is the same. Where along most of the rivers in Cornwall, there is a cycle path. And at the end, every 15, 20 odd miles, there is a town with a cycle hub. And you cycle from one to the other, and it's great. Um, and people just that's their holiday. We could quite comfortably be the first hub in Pembrokeshire. You could start from us, cycle all the way around the Cleddau, come back to Neyland over the bridge, lovely jubbly. You could. There's just so much we could do with it. Yes, it takes investment, and that's what I'm saying, to get involved in that survey, because this is how you influence people. So the reason I think cyclists get a bad reputation is cyclists do get a lot of grief on the road because you're vulnerable. You're very, very vulnerable. If you're cycling and you've got a tiny little hat on, I mean, that's your only protection. That is literally the only thing that stops you from getting killed, and it does work. And you've got a 40-ton tanker coming up behind you, and you're saying to them, "Look, I need you to go at least an arm's length out from me." That that causes issues for the tanker, but that puts you under pressure as well. So there are a couple of different types of cyclists. Yeah, you've got your regular cyclist that kind of goes to and from work. Yeah, your commuter cyclist that I'll go from here to there. Lovely jubbly. They've usually got an e-bike because if they're going up hills, they want to maintain a space. You've got kids and families that are like the touristy ones. They will tend to go to a place. If you've ever done the coast path up by Llanelli and Swansea, you'll know what I mean on that. You take the family, and that's what I talk about. We should have one around the Cleddau. But you can go there, boom, take it off, cycle out, cycle back, lovely. It's this middle section where you have over keen cyclists that do it for fitness and think they own the road. They're the ones that give everybody the bad rep. Um, and they're the ones that will. So there's a cycle path there. Yeah, there's a safe cycle path, but they don't want to use a cycle path because they want to go fast. So they got to go on the road. But then when they go on the road, they, and you might be, if you take that road, the A477 going at, that's a 50, 60 mile an hour road. That's a fast, fast road. If you're a cyclist going out there, I don't care how good you are. Yeah, you might get 30, 35 out there, but you're going to put yourself at risk. So that's where that cycle path on the side, that's what it's there for. That is absolutely what it's there for, and it should be used. Um, so yeah, I think we need to have that conversation about it, about who uses what and when and why. I think some of the early arguments about hardly anybody uses it, so it's not safe. I think those have gone. I think all the cycle routes are now really well used. I think we need more, but I think we need to think about it as part of the public transport system. So cycle to the tram, tram to work, work to tram, tram to cycle, cycle to home. Those kind of things need to be a bit more kind of there. Um, Having a train, if you if you if you want to get if you want to take a job in Milford, yeah, and you work in Pembroke Dock, um, and you don't drive, then how's that going to work? These are two of the major urban areas in Pembrokeshire that are, you know, by sea are probably 2 miles apart at most. I think it's 6 miles by road from one to the other. It's like what 8 hour train ride, something like that. I mean, come on. We've got to look at different solutions. Is there any reason why there isn't a water taxi between Pembroke Dock and Milford? Is there any reason why there isn't a water taxi from Pembroke Dock to Valero? Yeah. Uh, mm, you think of that. So I'm sure we could find a car park somewhere close to Hobbs Point, and you could go off Hobbs Point out to Valero on the boat. And that would save so much hassle. You could have one from Neyland, you could have one from Milford, you could have one from Pembroke Dock. Cha-ching. Yeah. You can have a bus from Tenby, and all of a sudden, all that Valero traffic just disappears, and half of the congestion and in and around Pembroke and Pembroke Dock is gone. These are the things that we need to think about when we think about public transport going forward. So please do, come and argue with me on. Don't argue with me. Don't argue with me. That's the wrong. That's a right wing thing. Come and have that conversation on social media. Let's talk about what the issues are. How can we resolve them? What we could do? What the possibilities are? and how we can make that happen. Let's have that chat on social media and go from there, because that would be fan dabby dozy on that. Okay, that's the end of my chatty bit today. Please do get involved on social media, because yeah, I say personally, I would love to use more cycling, more public transport. I think the difficulty in Pembroke Dock with cycling is hills either side, but with your electric bikes, it kind of takes some of that away. But yeah, let's have that conversation. Let's see where that goes on social media, and we'll do some more next week on that. Okay, let's have a look at wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice indeed? So I'm gonna blow my own trumpet on this one. Okay, so wouldn't it be nice to have the DockBox derby? Okay, this is something I tried to get off the ground years and years and years ago, and we were close to it. We were really really close to it. It's basically, if you don't know what a soapbox is, okay, soapbox is it's an old-fashioned go-kart, but it's kind of souped up. It's a bit of fun. You make it look like say, no, Super Mario Kart, a flying cloud. If you remember the cartoon, The Wacky Races, which I think I saw the other day, they're doing a live action version of it. Stuff like that. These really bizarre, elaborate cars powered by basically gravity. Um, so what we proposed a few years ago was on one of the bank holidays where pretty much town was there. I think that's where it started. It was bank holiday, and I'd gone to visit my mum in the dock. I think I was taking her out for the day, and town was just dead. There was nothing there at all. I thought, this is bank holiday. We should be pulling people in. We've got, look at Merrick Street's wide open. We can do stuff down there. You go from the top of you. If you come around the bottom of Prospect Place and you come around the nasty corner and you take that as your start ramp and you go around the corner, you can go all the way down to the bottom into the car park at the bottom. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be a cool soapbox track? You could have stalls either side. You could have people cheering all the way down. There's a really easy route where you come out the bottom of that, stick it on a car, you come back to the top in a really short period of time. Everything that we looked at on that, just kind of we would tick the box. This would be great. It'd be a great event, great to get people in. Spoke to emergency services about closing the road. He says, as long as we've got somebody there that if need be, you could open the road temporarily, let an ambulance through, let the fire through, whatever, it'd be fine. And we had all of that good to go and all of that. And there were a couple of residents in Merrick Street that didn't want people sitting on their doorstep cheering. And they didn't. We said that we'd be able to park cars in the car park at the bottom for the day, because it just safety, going down. And if you wanted to get out, you could then get out. Otherwise, if your car was there, it would be stuck there for the day. And they didn't want to park their car 150 yards away from the house. So it was something like that, something stupid. So we kind of, the idea kind of petered out a little. But I just think it's a brilliant idea. The way that street is set up, the way Pembroke Dock is set up, we could have activities going up Diamond Street, Devon Street, subject for future. Um, there's loads of things that you could do, and it's really, really popular. In particularly some of the bigger ones would be really, really popular. We spoke to Red Bull that do the Red Bull Soapbox Derby, and we said, one, how do we set this up? And two, if we can get this set up, would you be interested? And we showed them the track, and they said it's very, very straight, because then normally the Red Bull tracks are kind of windy. So they said, it would be very unique because it would be a straight track that you'd have to kind of put the bends into, but you could put one camera down the far end and record the whole track coming all the way down. And they said it'd be great. And what they actually said to us was, come back and see us in a couple of years when you've got it up and running, and we'd love to be involved in it. So that never happened, obviously. We did get one going. I kind of left the project, and a couple of the others managed to get it down the side of the park, which was great, but still not, could have been massive. So yeah, if the feeling is there again and the enthusiasm for it is there, if we can get a bunch of people together that want to make this happen, we will make this happen. We can. The planning on it has been done. It wouldn't take too much to bring that back alive. I think we spoke about doing it on like a bank holiday Monday in the one after Easter. It's the one that keeps moving. This all, but you say like, that's our bank holiday. I think we had 10 teams entered where we didn't actually have permission to do it. So we had 10 teams entered we where we didn't have the event. So if we had total permission and that went ahead, yeah, we'd have a full day event down there, and it would bring people into Pembroke Dock. This is what we need to do. We need to find events that will bring people into Pembroke Dock. So wouldn't it be nice if we brought back the DockBox Derby and we did it properly and we did it in the town centre and we did something in the town centre that was absolutely amazing. So that's my thing this week. My wouldn't it be nice? So comment on our socials. Wouldn't it be nice? This is what we could do. Yeah, let's get that one going again. Lovely. Okay, so before we go and do the sport, I just wanted to throw that offer out there again. If you fancy coming and joining us, please do email me on ilovetowncast@gmail.com. It would be great to have a few other people involved in this. I say I'm desperately trying to get Towncast going for Tenby and Haverfordwest and Fishguard. Those are my next three. Um, so having somebody else on board to do this would be a massive help. And also, if you're thinking I might want to start my own YouTube channel or I might want to do something on socials or something on TikTok, this is a great start. It's a really great start. All my rugby ones, I've had loads of success stories all there with my presenters on those channels have gone on to do other things. Just in that rugby world now, I've got people that phone me up and talk to me um, about certain things because of the podcast. I've been on BBC. I've been invited on ITV. That one never happened. I've been on a couple of national radio stations. Um, just because we did the podcast on rugby. So yeah, if that's something that you might want to have a crack at, email me. Let's see how we can do that. Okay, let's go and have a look at some sport. So, starting with the rugby news as usual, and a good week for the Quins. You can see down the bottom there, decent win away against Tenby Athletic. Um, yeah, feels like it's going in the right direction on that one. So just wanted to highlight up the top here, Langham 43 against Lanabother 24. Remember last week that we said, Langham were struggling for a side. So to see them come back out and put 43 points on someone was fantastic. So where are the Quins in the table? Second in the table, still a bit of a stretch off Ponteberem, but it's good. Ponteberem are 5 from 5, Quins are 3 from 5. Going to be some interesting games coming up. So what I'm going to do, we're going to have a look at next week's game. So next week is St David's at home. Boys, that's one that we absolutely have to win. But I'm gonna go looking for when do the Quins play Ponteberem because I think that's probably going to be the key game now. That's the interesting game there. Quins v Pembroke just before Christmas. When do the Quins play Pontevedra? There we go, 10th of January away in Pontevedra. So that is the key game for the Quins. We're coming straight out of Christmas, um, two home games, and then away to Pontevedra, and that's going to be the key one for me. I think everything else is all up. I know we're second in the table at the minute. Is really only Llanybother, which are struggling. Langham have beaten Llanybother, but yeah, I think if we're going to do anything, we need to get out of this league and we need to start moving back to where we should be on that. Right. Okay. Let's have a look at a little bit of football. Pembrokeshire League Football Division 1. So, these are the results for yesterday. So, Carew lost 3-0 away in Clarbeston Road. But Penna Robbins beat Narberth 4-2 at home. That's the one I was looking for. Where does that leave everyone in the table? Penna Robbins jump a couple of spaces, a couple of positions for that. Carew still three off the bottom, but the Robins are now five off the bottom. The reality is, they played 7 games. Hakin have played 9. So yes, there's a bit of a gap, but I still think there's room for improvement there. We should be mid-table by mid-season. Fixtures coming up. So this is 25th of October. So yeah, that's this weekend. We have got so the Robins travel to Fishguard Sports. That's going to be an interesting fixture. And Carew travel to Merlin's Bridge on that. So Division 2. So Carew Reserves lost 5-4 at home to New Hedges. And yeah, I think that's it for us. And then that's the only one in that one. Carew Reserves, bottom of the table. Not looking good for Carew Reserves, I'll be honest. And then the game this weekend is Carew Reserves against Goodwick Reserves, Goodwick United Reserves. That's a tough call. That is a tough call. It's going to be a long season for Carew Reserves in Division 2. Division 3 then. So in Division 3, good win for the Borough, 6-2 over Camrose Reserves. Loreni beat Kilgetty seconds 2-1. Penna Robbins seconds lost 3-0 to Tenby seconds down the bottom there. Where does everyone in the table? So Loreni third, Pembroke Borough fourth. Robbins seconds are one off the bottom of the table. Their fixtures for the coming week then. The Borough are at home to Broadhaven, and then Robins are at home to Loreni. So I'm just going to see where Broadhaven is in the table. Yeah, that's a top of the mid-table kind of clash there between the two. But the Borough should be taking that. It should be going into that one confident, especially after that win last week with that one there. So I forgot what division we were in there. So Division 4 then. Let's have a look in Division 4. Results from last week. So Manorbier went down 2-1 to Hundleton. St Florence beat Solver 5-2. I think that's it for us in there. Yeah, there's not really much in there for us. If you're interested, Hundleton played Johnston and Angle are away in Neyland in that division there. So Division 5. In Division 5, then Loreni Reserves do 3-all with New Hedges and Saundersfoot seconds. Pembroke Borough Reserves won 5-2 home against Prendergast Villa, which is nice. That's a good weekend for the Borough. That was so that leaves the Borough in fourth there, and Loreni's Reserves kind of the bottom half of the mid-table there. So fixtures for this week then. Lorenia Reserves host Herbernston Reserves, and the Borough travel to St Clair's Reserves on that. Yeah, 25th of October. Yeah. Okay, lovely jubbly. Lovely. So, if sport is your thing and you fancy coming down and go and you just want to do the sport, then by all means do drop us a line as well. That is it for this week. Loads to share on socials this week. Thank you for your conversations and your memories of Woolies last week. Please do get involved with Albion Square. Say if you've got any photos to share of Albion Square or anything like that, that will be fantastic. Pop them on there. If you've got any strong views on cycling and um, public transport, then please pop those on there as well, because that'll be fantastic. And if there's anything you want us to cover in the chatty bit, or wouldn't it be nice, then please do message us again. I say, I really want to do DockBox Derby. I just have this vision of DockBox Derby being amazing. So that is us done for this week. Thank you so much for your time and attention. It has been a pleasure as always. I hope you have a fantastic week. Stay safe and let's all make Pembroke Dock proud. All the best. Be strong. Be strong.